The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or Tom at trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
Hey, I'm here. What do you want? That, yeah, D. Crescenzo. Dave D, we're looking for you. Just call in, Dave, if you're listening or watching. Dave D, who is the founder and general editor of thepatriotspress.com, thepatriotspress.com. He's been reporting every day, basically, for 2 weeks on the Allen West debacle. We wanted to just take a minute, thank him for his work, and tell him about a program. Hey, Mark. Channel 2, Channel 1, Channel 2. That one right there. That one's mine. This one? Good. More than that, really? Right there, okay. Hi, Tom Trento, trentovision.tv. On the video side, my voice is slowly coming back. Man, for a guy who talks for a living, it's not good not having a voice. That's for sure. Though people, friends of mine, actually like it better when I don't have a voice. And the bad guys like it better. But you know what? Get it done any way you possibly can. WNN 1470. We're broadcasting on a 50,000 horsepower station out of Boca Raton, Florida, where it is just a balmy 76 degrees. Hey, Mark, we always tell the temperature. I see the little thing right there, the temperature on the right-hand side of that clock and whatever. Ooh. And I'm going, it's always 76 degrees outside.
No, it is 70 degrees outside in beautiful downtown Boca Raton.
It says 76.
Yeah, but that's only inside. Oh. We only figured that out the other day. So now the weather lady gives us the real number.
The weather girl.
Yep. What?
Why would you have a different clock outside, though?
I don't know. I just, I actually have one in my office that has a little thing you put outside and a little device, a receiver. You can get the temperature, but we bring you the weather and we bring you traffic on I-95. There's cars going back and forth on I-95 and on all the other roads in Florida.
Hey, Mike, take a look and tell us how the traffic is.
How's the traffic? Still cars going all over the place. So for late-breaking news, traffic and weather on the 6s and the 4s and the 3s, right here, trentovision.tv, WNN 1470. But the really cool thing is to get that application, iHeartRadio, on your smartphone and listen with crystal clear digital audio. It's really very, very good. As I've told folks, I run errands in the morning from 7 to 8, driving around. I put on Brian Craig and Steve Kane, our good friends. They're on from 6 to 9 every morning. And when I get out of the car, I have them on the iPhone, iHeartRadio, and they are with me always. So you need to do the same thing. Download iHeartRadio, go to the search bar, put in South Florida, then WNN. You'll get the station. You can listen all the time. We're on 3 to 6 every day. And you have an opportunity now to continue or to start donating to help keep us on the air. You can hit the donate button on trentovision.tv. Or if you have a business you'd like us to promote it, we are putting together radio commercials, and we will push your product, help you make money. You give us some of that money, and the world's a beautiful place, and we can solve all these problems, especially the problem in Gaza. We can figure that one out, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The last hour, we had Barry Shaw on, a wonderful friend of ours. We met back in February in Israel. We met him up in a little bit north of Tel Aviv. And he is bringing us just pinpoint, very detailed reports each day on what's taking place in Israel. And Barry's theory was to drain the swamp, get rid of all the Hamas alligators, and then put in the crocodiles of the PA, essentially, and kind of prop it up and let them all fend for themselves. Let the UN and the EU and whoever else wants to get in there. I want to discuss that, but do we have Dave D on the phone? Dave D, you there? No, not yet.
Do we have Dave D? No.
No, we may have to call him in the next hour. But what we want to do with Dave D, he did such a great job following the Allen West situation that next week we're going to do a 1-hour special on what the heck took place in Allen's election process. There were so many irregularities and anomalies and everything else. And for the next 2 hours, we're going to be with you all this hour, then the 5 to 6 hour. We have a special guest coming on for a little bit, Scott Jacobs. He's a videographer, investigative journalist out in Los Angeles, and over the weekend he videotaped some very disturbing images. Can you pull up the 2-minute news one that's on youtube.com?
Just send that to Mark, right?
Just go to youtube.com of a website, jootube.tv. I'm sorry.
joo-tube.com.
joo-tube.com. Go there, see if you can get that up, and we'll play it. Then we'll bring Scott up, so there's a little context for. Normally, when we have our A-team director here, this stuff's easy because we have one guy on the camera, one guy on the board. That's on the video side. We have Kenny on the audio board back there, so we got all kinds of digital stuff going on. But
he's ignoring us right now.
But what we're going to get into, the purpose of our special this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I don't know if we're going to be here Thursday. We may or may not be here Thursday live. We may be reporting from the field Thursday. We'll see. But we're bringing you critically important information about what's going on in Israel. And we're doing that not just because we love Israel, and as a Christian, I'm a Zionist. I love the nation of Israel, the Jewish people, though I got to admit, some drive me crazy, guys, you know. But from a national security perspective,
Okay, that's... Had a dig on me?
No.
Is this the Westwood one that you're looking at?
The what?
Westwood?
Westwood, yeah. But from a national security perspective, Israel is like one of our aircraft carriers in the middle of the Mediterranean, surrounded by 330 million people that hate America. And the tactical and strategic value of having 7 million people who are fighting for their survival in the middle of that is indisputably essential to their survival in many respects and the capabilities of the United States of America. That's why we need to unite and stand with Israel. That's why this Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, is making a mistake calling for a truce with the Muslim Brotherhood. It's nonsensical. Mark, before we go to our guest from L.A., what are your thoughts about Hillary Clinton, Mark Lang fan, New York attorney, and a par excellence map man on these Israeli tactical maps? Hillary is trying to broker a deal with Morsi, the Brotherhood. What is that all about?
Well, it's a fool's errand, and I think President Obama had to do something, because you had all of this flack from the Republicans, including from Senator McCain saying, he should be doing more to have a ceasefire. No, he shouldn't be doing more to have a ceasefire. He should be sending military cargo planes loaded with equipment to Israel. That's what he should be doing. He should be saying, you know something, we're going to show exactly where we are on this. These are terrorist bombs. They're they're being fired against civilians, which is a war crime. We're sending C-130s full of weapons to support our ally in the Middle East. He shouldn't be sending a 747 with Hillary. It should be a C-130. Okay? That's what he should be doing. But you had a Republican, McCain's saying, "Oh, he should be sending Hillary. He should be trying to."
I didn't hear that. Did you?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, McCain. McCain's saying, "Oh, he's not doing enough to create a ceasefire." He's not. McCain should keep his mouth shut. He doesn't. He's not even. It's ludicrous.
He's getting brotherhood.
He's getting brotherhooded totally.
Yep. He really
and the
is.
issue is he's saying, "Oh, we should have a two-state solution." He's saying we should have a two-state. Even now, he's saying we should have a two-state solution, and there should be a ceasefire. No. There shouldn't be a ceasefire.
I want to talk about that. CJ, quickly, your thoughts, then we're going to go to...
Quickly on
video?
McCain.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah, quickly
Video.
on McCain. He doesn't want everyone to know, to backtrack what happened in Cairo on September 11th and Benghazi on September 11th, that he had a hand in orchestrating to begin with. And this very same Hillary Clinton is the one who went on television internationally when the Muslim Brotherhood in Cairo overtook our embassy walls, burned down our flags, put up an Islamic flag instead, and then went on TV and apologized for our existence and said it was because of a YouTube video, and has been lying about Benghazi for over 2 months. She's the only one who hasn't testified on what's happening in Benghazi. She is not a credible person to be going to the Middle East and trucing everything. Obama had the right idea when he sent her to Indonesia.
When the exact opposite direction.
When it was breaking the fan in the Middle East.
Web we weave. Okay. All right, Scott, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce the next segment. We're going to show the video, then Scott will bring you up and have a little conversation with you. Tuck you away until tomorrow, where we're going to have an hour with you on this. It's so critically important. But setting the context for our viewers on TrentoVision.tv. What is tapping? What is that? Is that you?
No.
It's not me.
Somebody's tapping.
I'm chewing gum. That might be.
No, it wasn't you.
No,
No,
it's not that. Ken, what are you doing?
no, it wasn't him. It was around here somewhere. It was Mark. I think it was Mark.
I wasn't, but maybe I'm. Listen, I'm always guilty anyway. So.
Well, I guess that comes with being Jewish.
What we're doing is right.
and being a right-wing Jew.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
And you're totally guilty.
Yep.
Yeah, strikes her out.
On WNN 1470 on the radio side, we are dealing with the war in Israel right now. And what occurred 4 years ago with Operation Cast Lead. And the name of this operation, folks, is Operation...
Pillar of Defense.
It's either Pillar of Defense or Pillar of Smoke. there's
Good one.
Ring of fire.
All right, Pillar of Defense. And 4 years ago, when the Israelis had to go into Gaza in an operation there, very similar, the Arab Street erupted in the United States of America. Some of you remember the video that myself and Invisible Mike shot. Jews go back to the ovens. That's what it is. Jews go back to the ovens. And, well, the Arab Street is erupting once again. We had our technical director, Mark Campbell, Saturday in Fort Lauderdale, and he taped a little segment. We played it yesterday. We'll play it tomorrow. But right now we're going to play a minute little piece. And for those of you just listening, you can hear the soundtrack. For those of you watching, this is CBS News in Los Angeles this past weekend, showing a conflict and clash between the Arab pro-Hamas, they're a terrorist organization, pro-Nazi, they're pro-Hamas demonstrators and some Jewish Zionists.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Are you able to hear me there?
Yes.
Okay. Could I set this,
go ahead.
clip up?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me introduce you. This is Scott Jacobs, videographer and investigator.
I'm the publisher of Pt.2.info and democracybroadcasting.com.
All right, we'll give you a chance to say all that stuff. Set it up, and then we'll play it, and then we'll bring you on through Skype.
Okay. All right. So am I on the radio now?
Yes, you're on.
Okay, but I'm not on Skype yet?
No, we have the video up, ready to play.
All right. Anyway,
shut down.
Tom, you know me. I'm one of the original counter-jihad video bloggers, publishing since 2005, since the Gaza disengagement, or Israel's disengagement from Gaza originally, which was very controversial. And we argued very strong what a mistake it was that Israel would unilaterally, for political purposes, withdraw from Gaza, where they had no control, and they uprooted Jews. And it was a mistake then in August 2005. And now, of course, we saw in December 2008, we saw Operation Cast Lead. Israel had to go in because their attempt to show their readiness for peace was not met with what they anticipated, and the Palestinians only used the opportunity to destroy synagogues, destroy the greenhouses, the plantations, and move their war closer to the Israeli population centers. Right? Is everyone familiar with that?
Yes, this is a pretty informed audience, but your overview is very good. Keep going.
Okay. All right. So here we are now, almost 4 years later, and Israel's venture, their foray to show the world their preparedness for peace, and the Palestinians' unpreparedness for peace, again is backfiring. And so, having endured 13,000 rockets in the past 9 years, and without having a military presence there anymore to clean up, so now Israel has to neutralize the rocket launchers by air, and perhaps even go in with another ground invasion, where it might be worthwhile for them to reoccupy Gaza. And of course, with the American Jewish vote at 69%, and I bet in your local area there of Florida, with so many Jews, has there been any survey, to your knowledge, of how Florida Jews voted in the Romney-Obama presidential election?
Yes, the number is about 65-35. We gained 4 or 5 points. But let's do this, because we have just a limited segment with you. Why don't you introduce the video clip, then let's talk about that, and then we can, I don't want to miss the clip and get you on Skype.
So
I want to get you on Skype while you're talking.
This past Thursday, the 15th of November, Israel went in and assassinated Jabari, the Hamas terror leader, the military terror leader, and without missing a beat, the Islamist Marxist left, the Islamist Marxist axis, together staged a rally outside the new Israeli consulate in West Los Angeles. And the pro-Israel advocacy groups did not stage a response. It was only a few ragtag, brave Jews who came out to counter the lies and vitriol of this event. And so on Sunday, the pro-Zionist, pro-Israel advocacy groups came out, but this time, for the first time, they were joined by a large contingent of Israeli Americans from the Israeli Leadership Council. And are we on Skype yet?
No.
Okay, all right.
We need to get into the video, and then we'll bring you.
So the Israelis joined the American Jews, whose typical response is Israel wants peace, whereas the opponents are saying, annihilate Israel. And so the Israelis who joined, many of them are IDF veterans, and they're not accustomed to taking any crap from angry Arabs. And so even though it was a wide boulevard, the Arabs were angry and loud across the street. And so the Israelis thought that they'd go and make their point clear. And this video covers the scuffle which occurred as a result of their little talk.
Okay, great. We're going to play it right now. Mike, cue that, then we'll bring Scott in by Skype.
Meantime, here at home, tempers flared in Westwood at what was supposed to be a solidarity rally for Israel. Things quickly got out of hand after the group clashed with those supporting the Palestinians. CBS 2's Louisa Hodge is live outside the federal building where security had to separate these two groups. Louisa.
Rob, the crowds have gone now in front of the federal building, but just about an hour ago, this was a very different picture. Thousands of protesters out here, and what started out as peaceful protests between Israeli and Palestinian supporters quickly took a violent turn. Here's some video that we took about 2 hours ago when heated emotions and arguments escalated to the point where security and law enforcement had to step in, even physically removing unruly protesters. Most of the rally consisted of thousands of Israeli supporters on one side of Wilshire Boulevard in front of the federal building and hundreds of Palestinian supporters on the other side. But several times the Israeli supporters crossed over to the other side of the street, at which time the authorities got involved. But both sides were very vocal and passionate and wanted to be heard.
Israel isn't the right to defend itself, and Hamas has no right to launch missiles at Israeli cities.
Rockets are not the same as F-16 bombing of a very tiny strip of land that is mostly populated by civilians.
When the protests first got underway, cars were driving by on Wilshire with people inside honking and waving, but eventually the street was blocked off to traffic as the crowds grew, creating backups on Wilshire. Now, at about 4 o'clock this afternoon, police in riot gear did escort the Palestinian supporters out of the area just to make sure that everyone was safe. Live in Westwood, Louisa Hodge, CBS 2 News.
Okay, Louisa, thank you very much for that.
Bye-bye.
Wow, thousands of
Israelis.
Yeah, man, I've never seen that.
This is the first time I've ever heard the Israelis.
Yeah, getting involved like that.
Crossing over.
No, not crossing over. Getting involved.
You're the mics. You guys need to use a mic.
Yeah, and that's part of. Mark, can you hear me?
Wait, hang on,
Scott,
Scott.
how are you?
Hang on, Scott. Let's bring Scott in on Skype. You guys can see him. Say hello to Scott. CJ, Mark, say hello to Scott. He's a good friend of ours.
Hi, Mark. Hi, CJ. You guys, you're like the pirate radio of South Florida. I'm surprised you. They have
yo ho ho and a bottle of rum, but he hasn't brought my rum or scotch or anything.
No, we told you that that's after
that's
the show.
Afterwards,
yeah,
afterwards. Yeah. No, that's.
Well, listen, if you guys have much success, I'm sure that that you may consider that offshore option.
Yes, absolutely. Right.
We have had, and of course, Israel activism has been strong since the early 1970s, where American Jews, led by the JDL, would lobby strongly on Israel's behalf and on behalf of freeing Soviet Jewry. There were many demonstrations outside. Mark, you probably remember.
I sure do.
Demonstrations outside the United Nations, outside the Soviet embassy, and Jews were strong then. And they took an aggressive, almost offensive lead in getting their way. And then, with the unfortunate passing of Rabbi Meir Kahane and the JDL fell down, and so Jewish protests tend to be led by the kind of people who led the No Nukes protests, the peaceniks. And even until this day, most of the Jewish protests, whether they be in support of Israel or for whatever causes, when Ahmadinejad comes here, these are reasonable people. And the opposition, especially now with the Islamist, Marxist, socialist, communist axis, who are very strong protesters. These are skilled, experienced demonstrators. They have loud chants with loud PA systems. And so the American Jews who wave their Israeli flags and sing Havenu Shalom Aleichem in a battle for media attention, their message, not only doesn't it get out, their message is lost because they don't understand what they're up against. And so, for the first time now, and I can say this since Gaza, and we have here in Los Angeles, we have the second largest Israeli immigrant population outside of Israel,
and the largest Iranian.
Yeah.
Over 200,000 Israeli Americans here, but they have not previously stood up in protesting and defending Israel and taking Israel's side. And so it's been left to, ironically, the American Jews And the American Jews of this generation are not war veterans, and they're reasonable people, and they're not skilled in demonstration. With all due respect to some leaders like Helen Friedman, who comes out very strongly. So we have from an older generation, we have leadership, but the Israelis until now, and this is the first time in my recollection that Israelis have really joined in and taken a leading role, not only in standing up for Israel's reputation, but in bringing the fight to the anti-Zionists, to the jihadists. And the question is, was this just a one-time event, or will this be a precedent? And will the pro-Zionist movement see the Israelis join in as a permanent part and adopt a more proactive stance against this libel and slander?
Interesting. CJ, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question, Scott. I'm wondering if this sudden support for Israel that you're seeing in Los Angeles is related somehow to the linkage that we're trying to connect between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Do you think people are realizing that they are not separate and distinct and that they're the same thing, and they need to protect themselves not just as a political entity in Israel, but as Jews worldwide?
Well, there are two aspects to your point, and I don't know how long do we have? Do we have 2 minutes to answer?
Yeah.
I mean.
We have about 7-8 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So on the one hand, you have the question of how much of anti-Israelism or anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic in nature, and there are studies and arguments, and I would refer you to Robert Wistrich,
right,
at Hebrew University,
yeah,
and Professor Manfred Gerstenfeld,
right,
also in Israel, who have studied extensively this exclusive, what they call a selective objection to the wrongs, the perceived wrongs of the politics of Israel, when there are far worse. You only have to look a few hundred miles north, go to Israel's north and look at Syria, and see the human rights atrocities that are being executed there. Go to Sudan, go to Africa, go to the Congo, go look at the Christians in Nigeria. And yet, if you look at the UN, they're almost obsessively focused on Israel. Is that because Israel is so wrong? Or there's something special about the criticism, the focus on Israel, which is anti-Semitic in nature? CJ, you with me?
Yes, absolutely.
Hello?
Yes, I'm with you, and and I have read the aforementioned, and I'm familiar with what happens in the UN.
Is the protesters themselves are, they try to make the distinction, which is fed largely by Neturei Karta, who claim that Israel is a Zionist state, and that true Judaism doesn't support the pre-Moshiach, pre-Messiah establishment of a Jewish nation in the land of Israel. The government of Israel is illegitimate, and so that they serve as beards, to use a slang pun.
And we find those guys
for anti-Zionists.
Yeah, we find them here in South Florida too.
I've run into them everywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Scott. I was
Israel's objection as
over there.
As it's been stated to the Palestinians. If the Israelis were all to convert to Islam and become Muslim overnight, would you still object to their having a government and a state there? And the respondent said, well, of course not. Why would we? So the issue is that it's a Jewish state, not that it's a state.
Exactly.
And that's the issue rooted in the Islamic rejection of Judaism and Jews. And so these are just manifestations that we're seeing where they're concentrating. Why does Hamas, and in fact you'll see on the Pt.2.info website, you'll see an interview with a former Gaza immigrant who complains about the true motivations of their movement, which is when they're saying free Palestine, or they're chanting liberate Palestinian lands, they aren't talking about the West Bank and Gaza. They're talking about, they're not talking about the occupation. They're talking about liberating Jews from all of Israel, Israel proper. And that's their objective, and their objective is driven because it's an anti-Jewish movement. That's what this is about.
This is fascinating, and you not only do you do the 30,000-foot analytical view of the essential dynamics that are resulting in an anti-Semitic, anti-Jew mindset, but you take your camera and you go into these spots and you capture phenomenal footage. Tomorrow, for our listeners and viewers, we got to let Scott go shortly here. We're gonna do a whole hour and go through some of the videos he's captured to show the conflict on the street right now, because our contention is with this administration that's so pro-Palestinian it isn't funny. And don't tell me, oh no, the president supports it. He said Israel has a right to defend themselves. Mark, what does that mean? You have a right to defend yourself.
I have also
You're a lawyer, right?
A limited right to breathe and to wake up and to go to sleep. It's but I have to tell you, in this regard, the Israelis and the American Jews really fall into this one. You know, the whole notion that we have the right to defend ourselves is, gee whiz. Yeah. Okay, the issue is not whether we have the right to defend ourselves. The issue is whether we have the right to annihilate someone who is trying to kill you. And you do have the right, and you must exercise the right to annihilate someone who's trying to kill you.
I didn't hear that coming from the Department of State. That's
that's the difference. The difference is everyone has the right to breathe. Yeah, sure, you have the right to breathe.
Unbelievable. All right, Scott, we're going to have you on for an hour tomorrow. We'll figure out which hour, either the 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, and we'll contact you after the show. Want to go through the analysis, go through your videos systematically, because they're showing the state of California, the largest state in the union, a totally blue state, and quite a few jihadis out there. You got 4 of them that got busted yesterday by the FBI. You're aware of that?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you know, they like warm climates, it seems.
Yep.
I don't know.
I don't blame them, baby.
Upstate New York in the wintertime, but they must come in summer down in Florida, South Florida, and Southern California.
They get caught quicker in New York and New Jersey.
Yeah. So we're going to discuss that too tomorrow with Scott Jacobs.
And one of them was an Air Force person.
By the way, let your viewers go to youtube.info tonight and take a look at the article, because you'll see parts of the conflagration that CBS didn't show.
Yes, absolutely.
They'll show the Israelis really going and mixing it up with the angry Arabs.
Yeah,
and also you can get some background on the democracybroadcasting.com website, where you can see Mark Langfan explaining the steps, the falling dominoes in case Israel, God forbid, were to fall.
Who's that guy, Mark Langfan?
Describing that. So please familiarize yourselves on democracybroadcasting.com and on youtube.info, and I hope to see you back here tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much. And we'll say goodbye to Scott.
Good to meet you.
See you tomorrow, Scott.
Scott's a great guy.
He is. We know Scott for years and have done video projects with him out there. And he captured 18-minute confrontation. There were hundreds of Hamas supporters in L.A. the other day, and one Jewish rabbi with a gigantic Israeli flag. He's on this side of the street, and a couple of Palestinians.
Would you like to have him on tomorrow, by the way, Tom?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Would you like to have him on here? Okay, we'll have to put him on. We have to limit, because he could take up 58 of the 60 minutes.
Yeah, I know. We'll get him for a bite or two.
You mean 90 minutes of the 60 minutes?
Yeah, right. So
Jewish time, give or take an hour.
All right, Scott, we're going to say goodbye to you, Scott. See you now.
Thank you, guys.
All right, take
See
it
you
easy.
later,
Bye bye.
Scott. Thank you.
Be well.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Amen.
Thank you very,
Back to
very
you.
much. And a couple of Palestinian supporters came over on the rabbi side, and they're kind of harassing him. So he said to the cops, what are they doing here? He said, it's a free country. They can go anywhere they want. He goes, okay. He takes his flag, walks across the street, right in the middle, and walks right through the middle. And the police had to protect him, right? And they finally said, you can't stay here. And he goes, why not? You let those guys stay by me? No. And they made him go back to the other side.
That's right.
And it was really an interesting confrontation. And we've been in a few of those,
Yeah.
so we know how those things
It's a free
work.
country.
Yeah.
Yep,
It's a free country when Jews are being stepped
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, we are 41 minutes past the hour on TrentoVision.tv. Your host, Tom Trento, with CJ, Invisible Mike, the disembodied voice. Mark is not here today. He's here in spirit. He's here in a disembodied way. And our special guest, Mark Langfan, mapman.com. Map?
No, it's just marklangfan.com.
Oh, Mac, yeah.
Or a three-dimensional map, or
Okay.
topographic map. Just if you Google topographic map of Israel.
All right, well, here's what we want to
Something
do.
will cut.
We want to take the
Let's,
rest of... Well, go ahead.
If we could, we have Dave D back
Okay.
on the line.
Yeah.
If we could just get a really, really
Go
quick
ahead, take
update.
it.
Dave, are you with us?
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing, Dave? Can you give us like a 30-second update on what happened yesterday and today?
Well, the basic thing I guess I could tell you is what you probably already know. Secondhand, I guess, but Congressman West has, from what I understand, decided to no longer pursue this, and I really can't blame him. At this point, even if they did do a recount, from my perspective, all they're going to do is they're going to recount a bunch of contaminated votes, and there's no way of trusting that system. So he's going to save himself a ton of money, and he's going to be very much a leader, even though he doesn't have the title anymore, or soon won't be. And I totally understand what he did, and I totally support his decision.
All right.
Dave, you did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
ThePatriotsPress.com is your publication. Next week, we want to put together a 1-hour special on the West debacle. You can help us with that, okay?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. We spoke of it yesterday. I'm going to reach out to several people that we all know and see if I can put together. It's going to be hard to whittle it down to 6 or 7 people because so many were involved. But I'm going to ask, those people that were involved who they think should be part of that conversation, and we'll have a really good show to put on for the listeners.
Yeah, what we envision is if you do a timeline, timelines are very effective media communication, and we can put the graphics up here that you produce in your publication, thepatriotspress.com, and then hit what went wrong. And then have some recommendations, because we are an activist station program, have some recommendations as to what can be done, and we'll mobilize people to start making changes, one of which is to get rid of, what's her name, Madeline
Gertrude Walker.
Gertrude Walker.
Yeah.
Gertrude Walker, and while we're at it, we could live nicely without Susan Bucher as well, for my money.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll vote them out. Somebody voted them in, let's vote them out. So, hey, thank you, Dave.
Thanks
Wonderful
for everything, all your hard work.
We'll see.
It's my passion and my pleasure. And listen, guys, before you let me go, everybody there, have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving, and just enjoy time with your families in a couple of days.
Oh, that sounds good.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Dave D., nice to meet you.
Stay well. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mark Langfan.
Yes, sir.
You're right.
Let's, we have, at 44 minutes past the hour, we have a bunch of listeners and watchers and all of that. Why are you so crazy about maps?
I'm so crazy about maps because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a map is not just a picture, it's probably a picture times 50. So it's probably worth 50,000 words. And I have found people have no idea what the map looks like. And just by showing people a simple map, you can actually get them some. I mean, it's very, very hard to tell people that they don't understand something. And if you say to them, "Oh, you don't understand something," then they get their cackles up. They
take umbrage.
They take umbrage.
That's a good word, umbrage.
It's a wonderful word. And so my method has really been to sidestep having to say to someone you don't understand. Instead, just sort of putting a map down that it's non-political in that almost if you're a right-wing Jew, almost everything you say is going to be deemed immediately rejected because it's political. So if you talk, you generally do not convince anyone. So I've found a lot of times all you need to do is take a map, put it down, and just have people look at a map and get them to look at it in a little bit of a different way. And it's that little bit of a different way that really changes it's a game changer. For instance, I have this little piece, and I call it my plexiglass Katusha rocket piece. And so,
it looks like, for the radio audience, it's holding a little piece of plastic that looks like the old compass. What was the piece?
It would be a protractor. If you cut out, yeah. if you, it's sort of a pie. It's about a third of a pie. So if you take a pie chart, if you take a really big piece of apple pie, it's sort of that shape, and it's very flashy, and people don't even really realize what it is. And that's the beauty. Because what I do is I take this little piece, and I have a map.
We have a camera there, so we have people watching.
And so I take my Katusha rocket map.
Okay, let's start with that.
And I just put the map down like this. And so far, nobody can be have too many objections. Why? I'm citing the most often hypothesized solution to the West Bank issue, a demilitarized Palestinian state. So if someone looks at this, they'll first say, "Oh my gosh, I'm actually supporting a demilitarized Palestinian state."
Now, hang on one second. Tell them what we're looking at.
We are looking at a map of the northern two-thirds of Israel, where to the south is Eilat, to the north is Lebanon, and Syria is to the east over here. You've got the Golan Heights over here, and you have this whole section here, which is Israel, except for one thing. Most people will say or think that the West Bank is sort of a bank, like a narrow little bank of the Jordan River. But the West Bank is actually this huge area here where Jerusalem comes up to here, and then there's another huge lobe. And I have a topographic map that you can actually see. This is the mountains it's an actual mountain range where the spine of the mountain comes right here, with Jerusalem being on the top of the crest line there. But what happens is, once you realize this whole thing is the West Bank, this strip right here is really the key to the entire situation. Because in this, first of all, from the border here to the Mediterranean Sea, it's about 10 to 12 miles. So from here to here, it's 12 miles. And from the north to the south, it's about 40 miles.
All right, so wait 1 second. Let me get this thing. The strip you're talking about, which is Israel proper.
Yes, pre-67 Israel.
Not the West Bank or Judaism.
This was taken over in the Six-Day War.
That thing is huge. How wide is that?
This is about 30 to 35 miles. That's exactly it. It.
Because you think of it, and I was there. I mean, but you think of the bank of a river. The bank of a river is 10 feet,
right.
20 feet.
You
don't think of a 30-mile wide piece of land. Such a misnomer, right?
I always say, instead of calling it the West Bank, they should have called it the West Heights.
Yeah,
like the
it's all
Golan
mountain
Heights.
range, yeah.
It's all a mountain range.
Yeah, that makes much more sense.
So it makes much more sense. So the key here is that between the Jordan River and the sea is about 45 miles.
That includes the West Bank.
That includes the West Bank.
And the little 8 or 9 mile strip of
then
Israel
you've got
proper.
This little, right, so you've got this little 8 or 9 mile strip. Now, what people usually call this is the narrow waist of Israel. Okay? And they say, oh, Israel can be cut in half. And the key point here is, before I get to the cut in half, I just want to make a point. You see these little dots here?
Yep.
This is my extra special additions to the map. I make these little things that are extra special. And what these little dots are is where 70% of Israel's population, Jewish population, and 80% of industrial base is. So it's sitting right here, not in the Gaza Strip, near the Gaza, in Beersheba. It's all relatively empty. In the north of Israel, it's almost all empty, and it's actually a fair number of Arabs. Where in this strip is 70% of Israel's entire Jewish population, which essentially means that's 4 million Jews sitting in this 10-mile by 40-mile rectangle.
The heart.
Okay. So
for the viewers, you can see what we have. We have a poster that's about 3 feet by 2 feet, it looks like. It's not a little map. And for the radio people, we have a big 4-color glossy poster. You do beautiful work. And where can they find this?
They can find it on marklangfan.com or 3dimensionaltopographicmap.com.
All right, we'll just go to marklangfan.com. You can see all these with analysis. We're looking at it now, and Mark is showing us how the whole Israeli issue that is front and center on the news right now needs to be understood in terms of the geography and topography of the land in question. Go ahead.
So this you've got the postcard size.
And I've got the postcard size.
So anybody who wants to just get some postcards for themselves or to distribute at their synagogues and churches, you'll do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And including this poster.
And the little pellets that can be inserted into your brain, too, right? We
have the little microchips.
The microchips.
So the key issue is this is the crown jewel of Israel's population. Now, I want to go over the key point. Pre-67, Israel was here, meaning this is the green line. After the 67 war, Israel came to control this entire stretch. Okay, so this is a mountain range, and if another time I'll take out my topographic map. But the point is, people call this the narrow waist of Israel, and I want to make I hate cliches. And to me, that's a total cliche. You say, well, they had it in 67. They can survive it again. This is the difference. You have this thing right here, it's got 4 million Jews. Now, if you think that an Arab army could attack this and reach the sea, it would have to be in some shape like this.
You're holding your piece of
I have
orange plastic.
I have another piece of plastic that makes that point a little bit better. Here. So if an Arab army were to cut at any point
from the army coming from the West Bank,
coming from the West Bank, where an army reached the Mediterranean and cut Israel in half, what would that mean? That would mean the Arab army would be in control of the area under this red thing.
Tel Aviv
or Hadera or whatever. But the key point is, any Arab army that reached the Mediterranean, if you did just a simple math analysis, you'd realize that that army would also have about 100,000 Jewish hostages.
Just in that.
Just in the area that they're reaching.
All right, let's hold that cliffhanger. You have somebody on the line, CJ?
Yep, we've got David on the line.
Okay, we can take one quick question. Dave, you're with Tom
David,
and Mark.
You have a question for Mark?
Yes, I do. Hi, Tom. Hi, CJ.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm watching the video. Let me stop it here for a minute.
Yeah, you got to shut your radio.
Curious, with this, in fact, as I'm watching this and listening to the gentleman speak, we're in such a small amount of space. You have all these Jewish people living. I don't know if it's advantageous for them to either move out of that area for a while, or, I mean, aren't they a target if they're really in that small area for Hamas to keep sending their missiles over?
No, that's an excellent question.
And we're going to answer it after the break, because Dave, we got to take a break in a little bit here. You hang with us, Dave. We will be back with Mark Langfan, his maps, and we have another report coming from an individual, Tani Zarelli. You met her yesterday, coming actually out of the States, but she goes back and forth to Israel. So you're with Tom. Mark, can you take this thing here?
Sure.
I'm climbing up off the floor, holding the map.
Thank you, Tom.
No problem. And we're going to look at some more maps, because these things are really fascinating. And we will be back in a little bit after the top of the hour. Tom Trento with the team here. See you in a little bit.
Thanks for tuning in to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will